Tonight, mask up and stay home if you're sick. A sharp rise in COVID, flu and other respiratory illnesses in Canberra. Also tonight, some foreign nationals to be allowed to join the Defence Force in a bid to boost recruitment. Counting of 640 million votes gets underway in India as the world's biggest election draws to a close. And Canberra United's Michelle Heyman named in the Matildas squad for the Paris Games. Good evening, Adrienne Francis with ABC News, coming to you from Ngunnawal country, and we also acknowledge other people and families with connection to the lands of the ACT. Canberrans are being urged to adopt pandemic-like practices amid a sharp rise in COVID-19, influenza and other respiratory-related illnesses. The spike has prompted the city's public hospitals to impose new restrictions on both patients and visitors. But health authorities say there's no cause for alarm.
Just 4 days into winter and some Canberrans are already doing their bit to keep from getting sick.
I'm just isolating and wearing a mask to try and keep safe.
We're not so much doing the embracing and the kissing and the handshaking. I've noticed that.
I'm staying inside more during the winter, so you're not going out with more people, you know.
With good reason. ACT health data paints a worrying picture. The first week of April saw just 13 patients with COVID-19 in Canberra's hospitals. Last week, that number had increased fivefold. For the broader population, the spike has been even sharper, from 42 PCR confirmed cases to 242 in 10 weeks.
The reality is, although the intense period of the pandemic is gone, COVID is here to stay. So instead of taking over, it's going to join in all the fun with the other winter viruses every year. The
latest strain is more infectious than previous strains, but not more severe. The rapid rise in cases prompted North Canberra Hospital to up its risk level from green to amber late last week. Today, TCH followed suit. That means masks are now mandatory, all unexpected admissions are PCR tested and visitor numbers have been reduced.
We know what can happen if we don't take precautions, that systems can get overwhelmed, so we're getting in early.
Dr Kerry Ost says this year brought an early start to the cold and flu season.
So we started seeing early cases of influenza, a lot of RSV and a surprising increase in atypical pneumonias like Mycoplasma pneumoniae over the last month.
Her advice to Canberrans will feel eerily familiar. Practice good hygiene, stay home if unwell, wear a mask in confined public spaces and keep vaccinations up to date.
I think we approach with caution, so protect ourselves, protect the vulnerable people around us.
Simple instructions Canberrans are well versed at following. Rosie King, ABC News, Canberra.
Voluntary assisted dying will likely be legal in Canberra a month earlier than expected under a legislative change introduced this morning. Debate on the government's bill continued today in the Legislative Assembly with more than 90 amendments introduced. Many related to recommendations from the Assembly's VAD inquiry, like clearly defining terms such as advanced condition and last stages of life, and doubling the timeframe for reporting obligations for health practitioners to 4 business days. The scheme's proposed start date has also been clarified to November the 3rd next year. A vote on the bill is expected tomorrow, with Labor and the Greens MLAs earlier declaring their support.
Implementing in the December period close to Christmas was challenging for another jurisdiction, and we also have already established our task force for implementation, and it already has work well underway.
Immigration Minister Andrew Giles has revealed he is considering cancelling the visa of a Melbourne gangland figure the Administrative Appeals Tribunal has allowed to stay in the country. Yesterday, the AAT cited a 2023 direction from the Immigration Minister demanding it consider a foreign national's strength and length of ties to the community as it reinstated the visa of an associate of the Mockbell crime family, 51-year-old convicted criminal Kevin Farrugia. The direction is soon to be replaced after revelations it has led to a number of convicted criminals being allowed to stay in Australia.
I have, over the last week, cancelled 35 visas, and there are more under review. I am aware of the case that the Shadow Minister refers to, which was decided by the AAT yesterday, and it is under consideration in accordance with the national interest.
The federal government has embarked on a new course as it tries to address ongoing challenges in attracting and retaining Defence Force personnel. From next month, the ADF will begin looking to permanent residents from across the Tasman and later other close allies.
To address a 4,000-person shortfall in defence, the government is looking to foreign nationals, permanent residents willing to serve in exchange for a fast track to citizenship, in a recruitment policy march into uncharted territory.
It's a significant crossing of the Rubicon today.
But the government was forced to double back after confusion over exactly who will make up the 350 extra people forecast to join per year as a result.
It'll apply to other Five Eyes countries and permanent residents from any other countries.
The prospect of recruits from any other country forced a clean-up in question time.
In the future, we are having an eye to the Pacific.
It's a dog's breakfast.
The policy's now been clarified. From July, New Zealanders who are permanent residents in Australia and have lived here for more than a year will be able to apply to join the Defence Force. From January, that eligibility will be broadened to include permanent residents from Canada, the United States and United Kingdom, assuming all security checks are met. The opposition labelling the move half-baked.
If you value and respect, truly value and respect, the effort of the Australian men and women who wear our uniform, you don't start to cheapen the entry price to get into the Australian Defence Force.
You are going to have to come up and offer them better pay and better conditions.
The mother of a Navy officer who took his own life says deeper cultural change is needed.
People from overseas that are, from other countries that might want to enlist here just need to look at our track record.
There's a reason why new recruitment ideas are being embraced. Defence isn't only lagging on the people it needs now, it's also well behind its goal of a permanent 80,000 strong force by 2040. Nicole Hegarty, ABC News, Canberra.
The United States says Israel is ready to push ahead with a plan that could lead to a total ceasefire in Gaza. That's despite far-right Israeli ministers threatening to topple the government if a truce is sealed. Pressure for a breakthrough is growing as details emerge of 4 hostages who were possibly killed by Israeli forces.
No sign of peace. Just one of more than 50 targets Israel says it struck in the past 24 hours. With Gazan cities and tent camps demolished, desperate Palestinians are pleading for a ceasefire.
Hamas, accept the deal. It's enough.
But far-right members of Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition have threatened to bring down the Israeli government should the deal outlined by US President Joe Biden go ahead.
This is a draft of a reckless deal, and now there is some sort of an attempt to whitewash it.
The Prime Minister is insisting the ceasefire conditions have not changed, but he has doubled down on crushing Hamas.
We have gone a long way to return the hostages, while keeping the war's objectives in mind, primarily the elimination of Hamas.
It appears the Israeli Prime Minister's private commitments to the US are now being forced into the public eye by the White House, which wants an end to this war. It's left Benjamin Netanyahu having to placate his right-wing ministers, now suggesting a temporary truce could start while negotiations continue for a permanent ceasefire, leaving open the possibility the war could also continue.
Despite the conflicting statements from Israel, Joe Biden has told Qatari mediators that Israel stands ready to move forward with the deal.
The only thing standing in the way of an immediate ceasefire today is Hamas.
The Israeli army has revealed 4 more of the hostages kidnapped by Hamas are now confirmed dead. The army believes the 4 were killed while Israel was operating in Khan Yunis, possibly by IDF fire.
If we're not going to negotiate and will make a hostage deal. There's no hope for this country.
Every day without a breakthrough, only adding to suffering and heartache. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
640 million votes are tonight being tallied in India in the largest democratic count in history. It's expected to result in a third straight term in office for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Our correspondent Meghna Bali is in New Delhi.
Look, the atmosphere is quite subdued here in New Delhi. I'm standing outside Parliament House and the results aren't going quite as expected. Now, the BJP and their allies and Narendra Modi, the PM, do have a clear majority in 300 seats, but the opposition has put up a real fight. Now, exit polls showed that Mr Modi would win this election quite comfortably, but results today have really shown that Congress Party, along with their opposition allies, have put up a real fight. There's an atmosphere of jubilation at Congress headquarters at the moment, not quite as celebratory at BJP headquarters. They've been quite humbled, and that's because they haven't made quite the gains that they thought they were going to make in a state called Uttar Pradesh, which is the largest and most politically significant. They spent a lot of their campaign flexing their economic achievements and their commitment to Hindu revivalism, but that sort of message just didn't work with them. This is a group of people, citizens, that were really hurting with cost of living pressures and rising unemployment. So that message hasn't really come through in the same ways that it did in 2019.
Meghna Bali in New Delhi. Bruce Lehrmann is claiming he was denied procedural fairness in his foul defamation case as he prepares to appeal against the decision. Bruce Lehrmann lodged the defamation case against Network 10 over their interview with Brittany Higgins after his criminal trial for rape was abandoned with no findings against him. Federal Court Judge Michael Lee found that on the balance of probabilities he did rape Ms Higgins, proving 10's truth defence. But Mr Lehrmann's notice of appeal says Justice Lee did not apply the correct standard of proof in arriving at the decision. No date has yet been set for the appeal. Australia has given the Matildas a massive send-off for the Paris Olympics, with tens of thousands turning out to cheer on the side on home soil for the last time. The 2-goal win over China saw the record-breaking crowd at Stadium Australia erupt with joy. There were also tears with an emotional farewell to goalkeeper Lydia Williams. The next match for the Matildas will be in France. Sam Kerr won't be playing, but the 18 players who will be competing for gold medal glory have been named, and they include our very own Michelle Heyman.
A record crowd of almost 77,000 people turned up to the Olympic Stadium to farewell Australia's favourite team and a treasured veteran.
Just listen to this ovation.
Lydia Williams was playing her 105th and likely last game for the Matildas. Tennis legend Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley presented the Noongar keeper with a buka, a cloak made from kangaroo skins.
Thank you, everyone.
Australia and China played out a 0-0 first half before captain Steph Catley delivered a pinpoint free kick.
It's a great ball, it's a great header. And it's Claire Wheeler.
1-0 became 2-0 when Hayley Rasso finished a beautifully weighted through ball from Courtney Vine.
Who accelerates and scores. And the Matildas are heading to Paris in style.
And this morning it became official for Tony Gustafsson's squad of 18.
It's been an emotional week, of course. But right now, today, I feel very excited.
The Olympics is a really, really difficult tournament. It's quick turnarounds, straight off the bat in the groups you're playing against, some of the top teams in the world.
Steph Catley will captain an experienced squad. She's one of 8 Matildas going to their 3rd Olympic Games. 6 will be going to their 2nd, while last night's goal scorer, Claire Wheeler, is one of 4 players who'll be making their Olympic debut. This is a team Australia will be hoping can break the Matildas' duck at major tournaments. After finishing 4th at the World Cup and the last Olympic Games, they now have a great opportunity to finish on the podium.
We know we're not the top-ranked teams. We're ranked 9 out of 12 teams in this tournament if you look at world ranking. We have a lot of injury issues, as you know, and as of late.
The obvious admission is Sam Kerr. And while Katrina Gorry has been selected, she hasn't played since March due to a syndesmosis injury. It's all smiles now, then hard work before the first game against Germany in Marseille. David Mark, ABC News, Sydney.
Just days after Donald Trump's historic conviction, President Joe Biden's son is now on trial. Hunter Biden pleaded not guilty to allegations he lied when buying a gun in 2018. A jury has been sworn in to hear the case, which could prove a distraction as his father campaigns for re-election. North America correspondent Barbara Miller was at the court in Wilmington, Delaware.
A First Lady and a mum. Jill Biden arrives at court to support her stepson. Hunter Biden faces 3 charges stemming from the purchase of a gun in 2018. It's alleged he lied when he told the licensed dealer he wasn't addicted to drugs. The defendant's troubled past is no secret.
Smoking crack and drinking vodka exclusively.
But now details of his crack cocaine use and turbulent personal life, including a love affair with his dead brother's widow, will be aired in court. Wilmington is the Bidens' hometown, and potential jurors were asked if they could be impartial before being sworn in. In a rare statement on the case, Joe Biden said, "As the president, I don't and won't comment on pending federal cases. But as a dad, I have boundless love for my son, confidence in him, and respect for his strength."
The personal drama is playing out in the political spotlight. Hunter Biden is not charged with election interference. He's not running for office, but the timing of this case so soon after Donald Trump's conviction couldn't be worse for his father's re-election campaign.
Last week, Joe Biden marked the anniversary of his son Beau's death, a reminder of the personal tragedies the family has endured. If convicted on all charges, the president's surviving son faces up to 25 years in jail. There's much more at stake here for Joe Biden than just a presidential election. Barbara Miller, ABC News, Wilmington, Delaware.
Some remote Northern Territory communities have been barred from legally accessing takeaway alcohol for up to half a century, but that could soon change with the Northern Territory government announcing its roadmap for the rollout of alcohol management plans. It's a move some Indigenous leaders fear will only open the floodgates to further addiction.
It's been 15 months since alcohol-fuelled crime reached crisis levels in Central Australia. The NT government, under pressure from the Commonwealth, reinstated liquor bans in all communities and town camps, 6 months after intervention-era laws were allowed to lapse.
These are complex problems and they require a full solution.
And now, more than a year on, the government has revealed its roadmap for rolling out alcohol management plans across the Territory, giving communities which have been dry for up to 50 years the chance to legally access takeaway alcohol.
We've got to get away from this paternalistic view of alcohol and saying to communities you just cannot have it.
The NT government has put out a tender for private consultants to help communities develop their management plans. More than 100 remote communities and homelands have registered interest, with about 30 moving to the development stage.
We need people to learn to live with alcohol.
Beswick is one of the NT's 8 remote communities already operating a social club. Leaders say it's helped residents learn to drink responsibly and stopped them from taking risky trips to major centres to buy alcohol.
It was mainly the deaths. People just started coming back in a casket.
But other Indigenous leaders fear communities aren't ready for the rivers of grog to return.
Putting remote alcohol places on remote communities is adding more fuel to the fire. It's an addiction and it's a feel-good because the person's been kicked in the guts all his life and the only way out of it is alcohol.
Mixed feelings on a hot topic in the Territory's debates. Charmaine Allison, ABC News, Alice Springs.
P&O Cruises will be shut down in Australia from next year. The brand's parent company will fold P&O into the Carnival brand, rebranding 2 ships. But Pacific Explorer Cruises will be cancelled from next March and passengers will receive refunds. The company, which has operated in Australia for 90 years, expects a number of job cuts in head office but says most staff will be redeployed. To finance now, and the Australian dollar moved a little higher today ahead of tomorrow's March quarter GDP figures. Here's Alan Kohler.
The consensus forecast for economic growth in the March quarter due out tomorrow is 1.2% for the year, 0.2% for the quarter. Not that economists who have to make these forecasts agree on a consensus, of course. Someone just averages all the ways in which they disagree. ANZ and NAB both think in the quarter growth will be 0 and 1% for the year, so they reckon it'll be an almost recession. In any case, GDP growth will be less than half population growth, extending Australia's long per-person recession into a second year. The Aussie dollar snuck up a few points to 66.7 US cents, but only because the US dollar fell. The share market fell 0.4% because resources stocks were sold off after iron ore and oil prices fell by quite a lot last night. Global markets didn't do much. Small moves in New York last night and Asia today, except Mexico, where the main share index fell more than 6% after the landslide victory of the country's first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Apparently, investors and business people are worried that her party, Moderna, will spend more money and take more control of the economy. Now, in other Mexican news, the Aussie fast food chain Guzman y Gomez has decided to float on the ASX. The number of their restaurants has been growing at 15% a year, compound, and they're expanding into Singapore, Japan and the US. The float will be a spicy $2.2 billion. Finally, the ABS released data on spending on exploration today. Exploration for minerals fell 2%, but for oil and gas, it increased 10% in the quarter and 48% over 12 months. I'm just surprised anyone's still looking for fossil fuels at all these days. And that's finance.
To sport now, and Alex de Minaur has upset the world number 5, Daniil Medvedev, becoming the first Australian male since Leighton Hewitt in 2004 to reach the quarterfinals at the French Open. De Minaur says a vocal young fan has become his lucky charm and will be courtside again when he takes on Germany's Alexander Zverev.
It's the feel-good story of Roland Garros, an enthusiastic supporter of Alex de Minaur in his previous match. French fan Paul was back, riding every point like his life depended on it. To show his gratitude.
He's managed a miracle. Might have to get him on tour week in and week out. I could hear him after every single point, and it's a distinctive voice.
Honestly, it was amazing, and now I really hope you'll win. It was incredible.
On the clay, I needed hot, lively conditions, but you know, this week, this whole tournament has proven otherwise.
De Minaur endeared himself to the Parisians by conducting his entire post-match interview in French. The Demon is likely to be a crowd favourite when he faces 4th seed Alexander Zverev. The German is coming off 2 gruelling 5-set wins.
I've played a total of 8.5 hours over the last 3 days, so I need to recover.
Charm by his side, a maiden Grand Slam semi-final is in his sights. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
What a great lucky charm. Just over 24 hours out from the State of Origin Series opener in Sydney, both teams have held their final training sessions. Queensland is looking to win a 3rd straight series. Meanwhile, the build-up has been a typical Origin roller coaster ride for the new Blues coach, who says he's ready to embrace the challenge.
Ready for his first game at the helm of the Blues, Michael Maguire has quickly learned just how big this occasion is.
It's huge. Like, you realise the enormity of what Origin's all about when you're walking down the street, and when you're in clubland you've probably only got your isolated little fans that you have, and whereas when you're talking about a state of 9 million, it's everywhere.
He's not the only one experiencing a first, with the new Blues captain equally enthused.
To be here, to get to leave my state tomorrow is it's really exciting, mate. It's a true honour, and something very proud about, mate, and won't take it for granted.
Preparation hasn't come without the typical theatrics of Origin football, but Madge is confident in James Tedesco's late addition.
Teddy's just basically fitted in seamlessly, really. Obviously you have to make decisions, and now obviously we've got Teddy coming in, and what a replacement.
Meanwhile, the Queensland Maroons have settled into Sydney and finalised their preparations with a captain's run on site this afternoon. Coach Billy Slater was welcomed to his rival state with hostility.
Well, I'm excited. I'm nervous, like anyone else. It's state of origin.
He hasn't ruled out a late team change before kick-off.
We'll make that decision closer to kick-off. I think we've got till an hour before kick-off before that team goes in, and that's when it'll be final.
but says he's confident in keeping Selwyn Cobbo in the number 17 jersey.
He's a wonderful player. He can play a number of positions. And at the end of the day, you just want Selwyn Cobbo out on the field, and where that is, we've got a bit of an idea around that, but that might change as well.
The series opener at Stadium Australia kicks off at 8:05 tomorrow night. Anthea Moody, ABC News.
In the AFL, Dustin Martin's 300-game celebrations have been put on ice, with the Richmond veteran ruled out of Thursday night's match against Adelaide. Illness means he'll need to wait another week to mark the milestone.
Sitting on 299 games, Dustin Martin was a notable absence from Tigers training.
He's actually ill today, so that's taken that out of our hands.
With 3 premierships, 3 Norm Smith medals, 4 All-Australians and 1 Brownlow under the belt, Dusty looks set to add 300 games to his resume in Adelaide against the Crows. But the 5-day break proved tricky for the injury-hit Tigers.
And the silver lining to that is the fact that he'll get to play his 300th in front of our crowd against the Hawks next week.
In some good news on the injury front, trio Shea Bolton, Tim Taranto and Dion Prestia are available, and others are nearing a return.
Tom and Jacob Hopper are getting closer. They're in almost full training, so just going to make a decision on whether they play before the bye or after that.
Max King will need to pass a fitness test on Thursday to make himself eligible for Saints selection this week. The 23-year-old hoping to be available ahead of their clash against the Suns.
I think he's still a little bit ginger, but no structural damage or anything like that. So I think, we'll just see how he pulls up as the days go on.
In Brisbane, Hugh McCluggage will remain a Lion, with the co-vice captain now locked in through 2031. The 26-year-old resisting big offers from rival clubs.
It's been a great ride, and I still think that there's plenty of good times left.
The Harbour City's 2 sides have made similar moves in locking up talent. Will Hayward signing a 5-year extension with the ladder-leading Swans, and Sam Taylor tying his long-term future to the Giants until the end of 2032.
It's almost as though if you're not offering a long-term contract for key players such as Sam, then you're probably not securing their signatures.
Fraser Fife, ABC News.
To the weather now, and your observations of the beautiful rocks beside Queanbeyan River, seen from the Googong Cascades viewing area by Cheeto Ricabo of Gungahlin. Thanks, Cheeto. After a low of -1 in the valley and 2 north side, we reached a cloudy top of 13 in Tuggeranong today. A cloudy day over the high country. Thredbo began with -2 and reached 4 degrees today. Inland, Wagga Wagga and Albury reached 13, and along the Eden coast it was very windy. Bega reached 19. Across the country, Melbourne began with a low of 7 and Hobart 9. Through the day, Broome got to 27 and Darwin 32. The satellite is showing a band of cloud generating patchy rain in South Australia, Western Queensland, Western New South Wales and Northwest Victoria, with help from a pool of cold air. Cloud in Tasmania is thinning out as a front and low move away, causing showers to mostly clear. Showery cloud in WA's south is clearing as a high takes over. Tomorrow, showers are forecast for Sydney, cloudy in Melbourne. Around our region, there is the chance of fog for Thredbo, along with a low of -1 and a high chance of showers falling as snow. Patches of morning frost for Yass Valley and fog and rain and a top of 15. Rain increasing for Batemans Bay in the afternoon and evening and a top of 16 degrees. Canberra can expect a low of 2 and the chance of fog in the early morning. Very high chance of rain, most likely in the afternoon and evening. Light winds, top of 14. The sun will rise at 7:01 a.m. and set at 5:02 p.m. Looking ahead, very wet from Thursday through to Sunday. Possible heavy falls on Thursday and a top of 14. Partly cloudy Monday and 13. And showers are due to return next Tuesday. And that is the very latest from the Canberra newsroom. I'm Adrienne Francis. Great to be with you. Stay with us now for 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson. Enjoy your evening. Yarra, good night.